My name is Martin Hennis. I'm 24 years old. I'm a carpenter and contractor from northern New Jersey, and I've been watching professional football for about 15 years now.
I'm Kyle Donahue. I'm 24. I've been watching the NFL since I was 8 years old, and I'm a loan analyst.
My name is Daniel Bass. I'm in telecommunications. I've been working in telecommunications for about 20 years now, and I've been watching the NFL for as long as I can remember. It's one of the first things I remember doing with my dad is watching the Giants play the Cowboys.
Hi, I'm Tony LaParry, 54 years old. I'm from northern New Jersey. I'm a builder and developer. I've been watching the NFL since I was 9, 54 now, so it's been a long time.
My name is Alex Passanante. I work for ABC News. I am 24 and I've been watching the NFL for 15 years.
For the land and of the free.
Overnight, San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick refusing to stand during the national anthem again. This time, he took a knee right behind hundreds of service members being honored on Military Appreciation Night. As the crowd and players stand, you can see Kaepernick kneeling on the sideline. Teammate Eric Reed joining him.
Going to stand.
And he's receiving heavy boos here.
The crowd booing every time he took a snap.
First thing that I think of when I hear the name Colin Kaepernick, I don't see a color as far as black and white and race goes. I see an individual who is doing the best that he can in his position to have his voice be heard about a subject that has been pretty much dividing our country in one form or another for the last, couple hundred years.
I think of the Super Bowl where Colin Kaepernick was the quarterback against Joe Flacco and the Baltimore Ravens.
So I think of a martyr. I think of somebody who put the benefit of people who look like him, who think like him, above his own, and he sacrificed his well-being for him, not only him, but his family, for something greater than him.
When I hear Colin Kaepernick's name, I think it's disgrace or disgraceful. I think that the national anthem, everyone should stand. I think there are many other avenues at the NFL and people could have helped him protest the things he's protesting, but not there and not then.
On Sunday Night Football, the Washington Redskins starting the game with arms linked, some kneeling during the national anthem. The Oakland Raiders sitting down. We went into the Redskins locker room where it seemed players were talking more about what it means to be an American than their winning game. What message do you have for the president?
Help make things right. It's not acceptable and not tolerated.
From coast to coast, even in London, players sending that message to the president from the football field, linking arms like Patriots quarterback Tom Brady, hundreds kneeling, some raising fists like Giants receiver Odell Beckham Jr. after scoring a touchdown. The players putting on an unprecedented display of solidarity for their league, blasted this weekend by President Trump for allowing them to kneel in protest of racial injustice.
My personal views are, me personally, I will stand for the anthem every single time. I do see that there are issues in our country with the presidency and politics and all that, and there's always going to be those problems. And without getting too political, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of things that our president does. I try and stand by any positives that he does act on. But my whole standpoint is that I'm an American, and even though he represents us, the president, he doesn't define us. He doesn't define who I am as an American.
The start of the protest was fake. It was a lie. Colin Kaepernick was brought up by a white family. When he was a successful college quarterback, and when he was successful in the NFL, his own teammates didn't like him. They thought he was reserved. They thought he was aloof. He didn't get along with a lot of his black teammates. And only when the NFL caught up to his game and he became less effective to the point of being benched and not starting, did he decide to jump onto a Black Lives Matter protest and polarized his own position and knelt down?
So I don't think that the protest is necessarily against the anthem. I think that the time in which the protest takes place is during the national anthem. I think it's about giving voice to the voiceless, and he was actually protesting against police brutality, and he's giving those people a voice, and it's not really a national anthem protest.
Personally, I think it's pretty silly. I think that NFL players shouldn't be able to protest when they're, on the field doing their work, making their living. If I was in my workplace and I just protest and went against the crowd, I'd probably be fired immediately.
I think the media has covered the anthem protests as a sort of a big change in the landscape of American culture and politics. You have a guy taking a knee and risking his career, and as a result, a lot of change has come about since he's done that, Colin Kaepernick. So I feel like the media has covered it really heavily because it's been a pretty big deal.
Is that the right place for it? There are dozens of young black men who are millionaires because of football.
Well, there is a greater group of billionaires because of these African Americans and others, or because of their ability to play football. So which one you want to look at? The guys that have made a few million, or a bunch of guys who have made billions?
I think that the protest in its infancy was successful. I think that he brought light to a situation that was happening in America that may not have been noticed by as many people as it has been since his protest. So I think in the beginning it was successful. Now I sort of think that it's been co-opted and it's now become a national anthem protest when it was never really about that.
No, I think they weren't successful because I think they've had more of a negative impact than a positive impact. And I think with they're using their occupation as a platform, and I think the NFL audience is responding, and their ratings have gone down. So yeah, I don't think it's responded in a positive way. I think people just want to watch NFL football. I don't think they really care.
Has it accomplished entirely what he's wanted it to? Probably not, but is it one step closer? Yeah. The fact that other people are joining him, I would say that that's successful. If he was still the only one sitting and this issue wasn't being brought up into the light and we weren't hearing about it on our news, then I would say that it was not as successful, or you could probably call that a failure. But the fact that he has a following now and he has other people that feel the same way, can act in a certain way to display their viewpoint on the situation, where they stand.
No, I don't think they've been successful. There's been no proof that they've been successful yet. If anything, it's gone the other way. It hasn't brought people together to look at the larger issue. It's separated and divided people, made people argue with each other, and race relations are worse since it, not better.
I definitely think they've been successful. The NFL just invested $89 million in a lot of causes that Kaepernick raised questions about. So they've been successful, but they've also been tumultuous, and they've also been controversial for the NFL and sports as a whole. But totally successful, I'd say, yeah.
So the NFL is ready to, quote, move past its ongoing debate about player protests during the national anthem and could enact it next week. Commissioner Roger Goodell wrote Tuesday in a letter to all 32 teams that was obtained by our Adam Schefter. Here's an excerpt. Like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. It is an important moment in our game. We want to honor our flag and our country, and our fans expect that of us. We also care deeply about our players and respect their opinions and concerns about critical social issues. The controversy over the anthem is a barrier to having honest conversation and making real progress on the underlying issues. We need to move past this controversy, and we want to do that together with our players.
No, I think the NFL hasn't handled it effectively at all. I think the NFL is a mess. The ratings are down. I feel that all the owners and Commissioner Roger Goodell aren't on the same page, especially every team reacting a different way that one week where everyone was protesting, like the Steelers staying in the locker room, and the Cowboys taking a knee before the national anthem, and Baltimore Ravens all taking a knee that game, I believe. Yeah, so I just don't think everyone's on the same page, and I think eventually it's going to be their downfall.
I think the NFL, honestly, they probably don't know how to effectively handle it. And, let's face it, if there's only one man at the top, Goodell, Roger Goodell, that's making all these executive decisions, and he doesn't know what to do, then he's not really going to know how to handle it. I believe, where they've kind of left it up to the individual owners of each team to reprimand their players. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. It's not neutral. It's not negative. But when you do that, you're leaving it up to, 32 teams to decide for themselves where they stand on this issue. And when you do that, you're kind of getting a sense of, okay, how does this team in this region feel? How do the majority of the team in this region feel? How do these guys feel? So now you're kind of seeing where everyone stands. Where if Goodell, just made the decision and said anyone kneeling is going to be reprimanded immediately, then you're silencing all those voices. So maybe he did handle it in a good way by leaving it up to the individual owners and coaches.
I think the NFL's handled the situation terribly. From the start, they should have emphasized the fact that the rule says you should stand. The San Francisco 49ers owners should have went to Colin Kaepernick and said to him, what do you feel? Why do you feel this way? Before you kneel down for the anthem, give us 4 weeks. Sit and talk with us. Let's set up some programs in the high schools, at the police stations. Let's find ways of reaching out to the community. And let's do this the right way. You don't need to do this.
So I think that the NFL has done what they needed to do, right? Which was stay hands off. They let the teams and the local organizations deal with their players however they see fit. So you saw protests where the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't take the field during the national anthem, which is the best way you can do it, right? You can't tell private organizations how to run their company. So I think the NFL, for the most part, has done a decent job with letting the local organizations deal with their players however they see fit.
I feel like they haven't handled it as well as they could have. The commissioner is kind of on a rocky seat right now with a lot of people, whether it's fans or owners or players, but they've made some questionable decisions throughout the years, and I definitely think they can handle it better.
This anthem thing is a scam. This is not actually part of football. This was invented in 2009 as from the government paying the NFL to market military recruitment, to get more people to go off and fight wars to die. This has nothing to do with NFL or American pastime or tradition. This is to get boys and girls to go fly overseas and go kill people.
So that's Jesse Williams. He's the actor from Grey's Anatomy. He's also an activist, and he's talking about in 2009 the government teamed up with the military to start playing the national anthem, and all the players started coming onto the field because they used to be in the locker rooms before that. So, Pete, you served our military.
It's that pesky scam anthem that got me to sign on the dotted line and join that military and go overseas and fight in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Social and political climate has been affected a lot, and it hasn't been good. This country has been in a huge divide since the Clinton-Trump election, the year leading up to it, the year since. Things are bad enough between Republicans and Democrats. Social issues, race issues, everything is been brought up on the table, and this hasn't helped. It's only further divided us.
I think that people in general stay in their own lane, right? What that means is I go to work, I get a paycheck, I pay my mortgage. I'm only concerned with the things that affect me immediately, right? Whether that's paying a light bill, mortgage, those sort of things. I think that the protest has given people at large an opportunity to understand what it's like to be me, potentially, right? So what most people perceive as normal everyday things may not be perceived the same way as me, only because of the way that I look. So I think that the protests has given us an opportunity to shed light on what it's like to be, you know, a young black person in America. So I'm hoping that that light will bear some fruit in the immediate future, right? By people just taking a second to think, wow, that's really what you go through when you get pulled over by the cops. That's really what you think. I'm hoping that shed some light on it, and we can have an open dialogue around why this country is really two separate places, right? There's a country for most people, and there's a country for people like me.
What I think it's going to do is it's going to polarize people even more than society's already polarized politically. So it's just kind of, you either are for it or you're against it. There's no in between. And I think there needs to be more in between, but I think it just needs to be done the right way. And I think the NFL should have handled it the right way. But now that it's already open Pandora's box already, I really don't see how they could turn back and do something differently. Going forward, I think that the fact that this issue is now in the light and being discussed about, it's really up to the teachers and institutions, all the way from kindergarten through college, to really get that mentality out of their minds and just kind of open their eyes up. And kids are innocent. Racism isn't something that you're born with. It's something that you learn. So I think it's right now it's a good thing because it's crazy. Like, our world is not falling apart, but it could go one way or the other. It could get worse or it could get better, but usually it gets a little bit worse before it gets better. But in the tough times, when we truly need each other, that's usually when people step up to the plate and tend to put their differences aside because, we're all in this boat together. We're either going to, we're going to sink or we're going to figure out a way to get this thing back up and going and continue to be the greatest country in the world.
I think that throughout history, sports fans have gone to sports to relieve their everyday stress, their everyday issues. You come home, you're done at 5 o'clock, come home, sit on the couch, drink a beer and watch the Yankees play or watch the Giants or Jets. And now it's, you turn on the TV and politics and sports have blurred into one medium.
At an exhibition game in London, National Football League athletes knelt down while the U.S. anthem was being played. It was a sign of solidarity with other players criticized by the U.S. president since Friday for protesting racial inequality and aggressive policing in the United States.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Only because Trump, our president, was faced with something as horrific as people marching under the Nazi flag in North Carolina, and he described those people as good people. Yet black men who decided to protest against police brutality as son of a bitches. So, in my opinion, Donald Trump is a joke.
Did our president have the right to call the players out? Sure, because every citizen has the right to call anybody out at any time. Should he have? No, I don't think so. I think that he should have left it alone. I think the protest was going away, slowly going away. And then after President Trump said what he said, it galvanized this protest, and there were 3 or 4 times the teams protesting that next week. Should have kept his mouth shut, and I'm a Republican. He should have kept his mouth shut.
I think he came across kind of cold. The real problem was that he called them a mean word, SOBs. And, these people, whether you like what they're doing or not, have families, have kids. And I think it was a little cold what he did. He also has the right to say whatever he wants and, express that on social media or through press conferences. But I think he could have definitely gone about it a better way.
Yeah, I think he had the right. I think Donald Trump got elected that way by saying whatever he wants, and you know, there being a backlash, and he's, you know, against political correctness. But you know, I think he's kind of saying what the owners want to say, but they can't say because they don't want to piss off the players in the union. And so I think he's kind of, you know, the person who's not getting their voice heard. I think he's representing them, and he's representing the person that his voice is not being heard, that's too afraid to say anything. And personally, I think that's all right, because I mean, they're there, the players are there to entertain people. They're not there to, you know, spill their political viewpoints on, you know, national news, national TV.
I think Trump had the right to point out all the players kneeling for the national anthem. I mean, because if you're the president, you represent the United States of America. So any issues that are going on within this country fall under your belt naturally. As being the president of the United States, it's your responsibility, I believe, to acknowledge all issues going on in our country, because the fact that you represent us and you're supposed to be our leader and you know, lead us into a direction of positive and, you know, progression. The way that he said it, you know, saying you know, wouldn't you love to see the NFL owners take all these players kneeling and, you know, tell them to get those son of bitches off the field, or however he said it. That's not how you go about it, you know. He should have, if that's his true opinion, okay, that's one thing. But that just the way that he went about it just made more issues.
The 1968 Games will also be remembered for the 200-meter final. On the final straight, Tommy Smith powered past teammate John Carlos, who had to be content with bronze behind Australia's Peter Norman. The drama of the race was nothing compared to what happened next. During the medal ceremony, Smith and Carlos raised a single gloved fist as a symbol of protest at the treatment of blacks in the USA. They were ordered out of the Olympic Village and were suspended by the US Olympic Committee. Smith would be the last US sprinter to climb the winner's podium for 16 years.
When I think of defining moments for generations, I think of the Olympics when those two guys raised their fist on the, you know, first, second, third podium. I think of Colin Kaepernick, and, you know, maybe in the near future we'll see someone else come to mind, but definitely has made a humongous impact.
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's going to have a societal impact on history, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement and anti-police brutality. I think this has you know, a direct effect on that movement, and whether it's negative or positive, that's not up for me to decide. That's for history to decide. But I think, you know, in 2017, this year, I think it's going to have a direct impact on that movement.
Do I think it's defining? I don't, because history tells me that there have been a multitude of defining moments in this country which have bared very, very little fruit, right? So you had Muhammad Ali, and you had a bunch of different people who stepped forward and put the beliefs of, or not the beliefs, but the hopes and dreams of a multitude of people on their shoulders, and took on the burden and the repercussions for their actions by refusing to go to Vietnam. So do I think it's defining? I would like to believe so, but history tells me that it's not. I think that people who don't take advantage of the opportunities that we have today, just like they didn't take advantage of the opportunity that Martin Luther King laid out, not Martin Luther King, I'm sorry, Muhammad Ali laid out, right? He gave everybody an opportunity to reconcile what he was going through and participate, right? Like, you know, but people turned their backs on him because they saw it as a slight, right? He didn't step forward like everybody else stepped forward. So they saw it as a slight, and he was being disrespectful. I think that people are going to perceive what Colin Kaepernick did as disrespectful and not take advantage of the opportunity to heal as a country.
I don't think it's a defining moment for the generation. I think it's an example of what's going on with this generation right now. But every generation or every other generation's had major issues. We've had these problems in the 60s. People don't see eye to eye. They'll find a way to see eye to eye. They'll find a way to come together a little better. So this just polarizes it, and it's an example of what's going on, not exactly the lead case in what's going on in the country.
I definitely think it's going to be a defining moment, in the sense that it might fizzle off and fade, but it's going to be down in the history books. It's going to be brought back up in the future, and whether this thing just kind of, sorts itself out, or whether we actually get a huge change out of this,